Cover for me. I gotta whiz behind a tree.
Greetings, sir, and
forces advance. Establish a perimeter. I don't want any surprises.
Vanguard, with me! Press forward! Soldiers, defend our sacred city. Halt the enemy advance. Sound alarm forever. hold the Zandalari back! Heroes, you deal with this pair of horde thugs!
Well, well. The Alliance's greatest heroes, stumbling their way into the heart of the Troll Empire. I fear we can let them proceed no further.
On my homeworld, I leveled countless lightbound foes. I have been eager to do the same to these rivals of the Horde.
Then let us teach them a lesson.
You face the Dragon of Draenor!
You will burn to ashes! Behold the flames of the Phoenix!
Far away.
Your defense is feeble.
Beware.
Break you!
The Phoenix takes many forms!
Your defense is feeble.
Behold the flames of the Phoenix!
No quarter for you!
Beware.
Very light of the cosmos will crush you!
Your defense is feeble.
Behold the flames of the Phoenix! your doom! All will be consumed! Behold the flames of the Phoenix!
Your defense is feeble. Your defense is feeble.
I don't have a target.
Your defense is feeble.
Be on guard, champions. I sense a rising darkness. One someday!
My. Does the mighty Rastaka need old One Samdi's help yet again?
Aid us, or you will be the lower of a ruined kingdom with no one to remember your name.
Rise, fallen one. Zandala, be ours forever.
It seems the Banshee Queen isn't the only one with ghouls in her arsenal.
No surprise in her choice of allies. The Zandalari deserve their fate.
I need to get far away.
Rastakan's magic has turned our own weapon against us.
He was a noble fellow who deserved better. Heroes,
I have
do what you have
many
to.
lucky
Please,
dudes
be
you
merciful.
like. Many farewells.
We need these beasts knocked out of the air! Where is Mechatork with that new toy of his?
Did someone call for an airstrike?
Our incursion point is up ahead. Clear a path to the waterfall. You have the coordinates, High Tinker. Fire when ready.
Stand back, heroes! I'll get you inside the pyramid!
Oh, rats, you serious?
Shall we get down to business? Welcome, welcome. I foresee a mutually beneficial transaction.
It's Shaw. Matthias Shaw.
Hey, my name is Mike, and this is a too long didn't read guide for the opulence encounter in the Battle of Dazar'alor. To start the fight, you'll have to kill too many bosses around the same time. Split your raid up so that most of your ranged is on the hand of Inzashi, and your melee is on Yalat's bulwark. You'll be fighting these bosses in their own sections, and there will be 8 separate chambers that you go through. Each time you take 10% off the boss's health, he will move on to the next chamber, engulfing the previous one in flames. These chambers each have their own traps within them. Chambers with little doors on the sides will periodically shoot flames out of them that you need to avoid. Some chambers will fixate a random player with a red beam. This beam will create a fire patch on the ground as it moves, so if it's on you, don't run it through the raid. The one corner chamber will deal increasing damage to everyone. If someone falls below 50% health, they will get a 10-second buff. Only let people fall below 50% health if you know for sure it won't cause a wipe. You want to get out of this chamber quickly. Some chambers will put Hex of Lethargy on random people, which deals damage to them whenever they move. This needs to be dispelled. In the 7th chamber, you will see 7 jewels on the sides. You can click on them to gain a permanent buff. You can take only one jewel. The same jewel can be used by multiple players, and some jewels won't be clickable because they're not relevant to your role. The diamond should be picked up by the tanks. It absorbs damage, and once all the damage has been absorbed, it'll take 30 seconds to recharge. The amethyst should be picked up by one healer on each side. It increases your haste and makes your heals put a 1-minute buff on people that reduces their shadow damage taken. Players with this buff who take shadow damage will restore mana to anyone within 10 yards. Whenever anyone takes one of the jewels, they will get a 30-second debuff called Thief's Bane, which will kill you when it expires unless the healer with the amethyst gives you that 1-minute buff. The sapphire should be picked up by the other healers. It makes your heals apply a stacking 30-second damage buff to targets, and at 5 stacks, this buff is replaced by a 12-second buff that increases their healing and damage done by 100%. The ruby should be picked up by at least one ranged player per side. Your abilities will put a stacking debuff on the boss that makes him take 1% more damage per stack. This debuff cannot be applied more than once per second though. The topaz should be picked up by a couple other ranged players who will be standing by themselves for the rest of the fight. Doing so will grant you a stacking buff. If you stand near someone, you will lose stacks. When this buff gets to 100 stacks, you gain a 20-second buff called Gross beautifully incandescent. With this buff, you will stand near the largest group of people to increase their crit chance by 100%. The opal should be picked up by every other DPS. Each time you attack a new enemy, you get a permanent stacking 2% damage buff. The emerald gives you a stacking damage buff while you stand still, but reduces stacks quickly as you move. My guild did not have anyone pick this up because we like the effects of the opal better. In the 8th chamber, the mini bosses will begin dealing raid-wide AoE. Both the mini bosses do Crush, which is a frontal cone that does raid-wide AoE and stuns you if you're hit. Yalad's Bulwark has another frontal ability called Flames of Punishment, and he'll rotate clockwise as he does this. In the 8th chamber, this hits a much larger area in front of him. The Hand of Inzashi will apply an 8-second dot called Volatile Charge to random players that hits anyone near you, so move away from people. When it expires, it'll leave a permanent orb on the ground that deals damage to anyone nearby. In the 8th chamber, this ability does more damage and the orbs hit a larger area. Once one of the mini bosses dies, Opulence will begin to spawn. Do not enter his room or attack him until both constructs are dead, or else he'll begin casting a spell that, if it finishes, increases his damage done and health by 100%. Opulence puts liquid gold on random people, which is a 12-second dot that drops a yellow puddle on the ground when it expires. You want to keep all that gold for yourself, so run away from people. On Heroic, he also puts Coin Shower on random people. After 10 seconds, this will deal a bunch of damage split amongst everyone, so run this into melee because they all stink and need a shower. Throughout the fight, the boss will do Whale of Greed, which is a channeled 10-second raid-wide AoE. If the Amethyst healer has healed everyone to give them the shadow buff, this will do less damage. When this channel is completed, the boss will get a stacking 15% damage increase buff. He also spawns Spirit of Gold adds on himself that should be gripped, stunned, and slowed. They move towards the piles of gold on the outside of the room, and if they get there, they'll start spawning yellow swirlies on the ground. When you fight Opulence, tanks should be swapping as their diamond jewel buff is depleted. On Heroic, this happens faster because the boss does Coin Sweep, which hits for a lot. That was a too long didn't read guide for the Opulence encounter. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you like this video, make sure to give it a
sweet.
Hey, my name is Mike, and this is a too long didn't read guide for the Conclave of the Chosen encounter in the Battle of the Zara lore. There's 4 bosses in total, beginning with Gonk and Paku. Make sure to always keep them at least 7 yards apart, or else they'll get a buff and take less damage. When a boss dies, the other one will heal to full health, and another boss will spawn. All the remaining bosses also get a permanent stacking buff that increases their damage done by 15%. On Heroic, when a boss dies, there will also be a 6-second raid-wide AoE. Gonk, who my guild killed first, will transform into a raptor and do a frontal cone that does a lot of damage. Face this away from the raid. When he reaches 100 energy, he'll put Crawling Hex on a random person, indicated by this green circle. Run away from people so you don't spread it. Regardless of whether he's alive or dead, he'll periodically spawn raptors that fixate on random people. These do a lot of damage, so you should kite them. On Heroic, they get a speed increase and become immune to CC if they're close to one another. Stuns and knockbacks on these raptors will be helpful for when you deal with the Ghost Bird, which I'll talk about next. Paku, who my guild killed third, gets a stacking attack speed buff every time he attacks the same target. If needed, you can do a quick reset at around 25 stacks. When he reaches 100 energy, he gives the other boss a 15-second haste and movement speed buff. Regardless of whether he's alive or dead, a non-targetable Ghost Bird will appear and fly to a random location in the room and begin doing a strong raid-wide AoE. Stand in the circle underneath the boss to reduce the amount of damage this deals, and try to stack directly underneath the boss. On Heroic, make sure you do not kill any of the bosses while this is happening because of that additional AoE that the bosses do when they die. Kimball is the first boss that spawns after one of the others dies, and my guild killed him second. He has a frontal cone called Lacerating Claws that puts a 45-second dot on anyone hit. Tank swap around 2 stacks. Make sure when you're tanking Kimball inside the Ghost Bird circle, you're doing so near an edge so that this doesn't hit anyone in the raid. Once he's spawned, and then regardless of whether he's alive or dead, a non-targetable tiger will periodically spawn and put a red mark above people. If you're marked, move 5 yards away from other people because the tiger begin leaping to all of you, dealing damage to and knocking you and anyone near you down for 5 seconds. He'll also apply a permanent stacking dot to anyone hit. This tiger does come out during the Ghost Bird's AoE. If your raid is stacked in the middle of the circle, you can have marked targets move to the edges. Akunda is the last boss that will spawn, and my guild killed her last. She will do a storm which creates a blue circle around her. Move out of this. Make sure to fight her on the very edge of the Ghost Bird circle because her storm circle is almost as big as the bird circle. If you fight her in the middle of the bird circle and she casts her storm, you're probably going to kill a lot of people. At 100 energy, she puts a 30-second disorient on random people called Mind Wipe. This needs to be dispelled. Once she spawns, and then regardless of whether she's alive or dead, a non-targetable ghost dinosaur will periodically spawn and put a 6-second debuff on random people called Akunda's Wrath. Move away from the raid because when this expires, you hit anyone within 5 yards and spawn blue orbs that radiate out of you. If anyone touches these, they get stunned for 2 seconds. When this debuff expires, chill out for a second so you don't run into your own orbs. On Heroic, there's a non-targetable ghost frog that periodically spawns and leaps randomly to the furthest out players. Have your range players spread out on the inside of the outer circle to make sure this never hits melee or tanks. This frog does come out during the Ghost Bird's AoE. Again, if your raid is stacked in the middle of the circle, you can have your range players on the edge. That was a too long didn't read guide for the Conclave of the Chosen encounter. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you like this video, make sure to give...
Sweet. Now I get King Rusticon.
Hey, my name is Mike, and this is a too long didn't read guide for the King Rastakhan encounter in the Battle of Dazar Lore. You start the fight with King Rastakhan and adds. Any damage you deal to the boss will instead be inflicted onto the adds, so you shouldn't be focusing on him until they're dead. Siegebreaker should be your first target. He puts this light yellow circle on someone called Meteor Leap. When it expires, it deals damage split amongst everyone hit, so bring this into melee. If your DPS is good, you can have the entire raid stacked to start the fight. After this, he'll leap to the tank and do a lot of damage and apply a stacking debuff that makes this do 500% more damage. Do a swap when you get this debuff. The prelate ad will fixate a beam on a random player and has a fire puddle chase them. Just run away from people if it's on you. On Heroic, there's a third ad called the Headhunter. He'll hit a random player with Grievous Axe that'll leave a dot on them. Heal this player past 90% health to remove it. Rastakhan will do a 5-second channel called Scorching Detonation on the tank. It deals damage to them and it explodes at the end, dealing raid-wide AoE. Run away from the raid with this because the AoE does less damage the further away you are. The other tank should taunt as soon as the channel is done to avoid moving the boss. Rastakhan also spawns 3 green swirlies around him in a triangle. Non-targetable frogs spawn from these and jump away from the boss. On Heroic, they leave green puddles on the ground as they jump. These puddles are not permanent, but they do last a while. Avoid the frogs unless you can spare an immunity to soak one of them. Touching one will cause it to despawn. On Heroic, the boss will spawn a greater serpent totem which everyone should swap to immediately. It is a frontal cone that applies a 5-second dot to anyone hit. After killing the adds, you will get stunned and Buon Samdi will enter the fight. Tank him on one side of the room. He takes no damage, so no one should be attacking him. He has a giant green circle around him that no one except the tank should be standing in, as it applies a stacking dot to anyone inside. Keep tank swapping after each Scorching Detonation channel from Rastakhan. Buon Samdi does Caress of Death on the tank. This applies a 5-second debuff on you that absorbs all heals. Make sure the tank has enough health to survive 5 seconds of no heals before this cast is finished. Buon Samdi will also put an 8-second dot called Death's Door on random people. When this dot expires, you drop a green closet on the ground that you'll need later in the fight. Drop these around the middle of the room and near Buon Samdi, and try to keep them all in the same section. You'll see why shortly. In this phase, Rastakhan still does the tank ability and spawns frogs. His totem ability has changed to a zombie dust totem which mind controls a random player until the totem is killed. Make sure you do not kill the MC'd player. Rastakhan will also put Plague of Fire on random people, indicated by this orange circle around you. After 1.5 seconds, it will explode and spread to anyone in your circle. Range should stay spread out so you can pretty much ignore this, and melee can either pre-spread or just deal with it. If there's a circle in melee, just start spreading out until it stops spreading. When Rastakhan reaches 60% health, Buon Samdi will channel his boon onto Rastakhan. This gives him a permanent stacking buff that increases his damage by 2% every 15 seconds for the rest of the fight. At the end of this channel, the half of the raid that is closest to Buon Samdi will be teleported with him to the Death Realm. No tank is required here. People in this realm should pop Lust and their offensive cooldowns to get out of here as quickly as possible. Lust will not affect the living realm. In this realm, Buon Samdi will spam cast Caress of Death on random people. It lasts 3 seconds instead of 5. He also periodically channels Inevitable End, which pulls you towards him. If you get close to him during this, you will die immediately, so run away from him. And make sure to avoid the balls that are down here as well. In this realm, everyone will be getting a stacking dot.
Dang.
When you get to around 10 stacks, run through the closet to drop your stacks. When Buon Samdi gets to 50% health, everyone in the Death Realm returns to the Living Realm and you will only have King Rastakhan to fight. While Buon Samdi is in the Death Realm, the Living Realm has some changes. King Rastakhan stopped spawning frogs and putting the orange circle on people. However, green balls will begin spawning out of the green closets, so avoid them. In addition to that, ads will spawn who become immune to CC after 60 seconds. Kill the Phantom of Retribution first. He spawns these green circles on the ground that will deal raid-wide AoE unless soaked by a player. Interrupt his Gravebolt ability as well. The Phantom of Rage puts a green swirly underneath the tank. Move out of this. On Heroic, a third ad called the Phantom of Slaughter should be your second priority. He channels Focus Demise on a random player, which deals a decent amount of damage, and only the player that this is being channeled on can interrupt it. He also does Gravebolt, which anyone can interrupt. When the Death Realm is over with, pop Lust for all the people in the Living Realm. Rastakhan regains his frog and orange circle abilities. Bring him to an area of the room that is relatively free of green closets. Throughout the remainder of this fight, he will put Death's Door on random people. Make sure to try and drop these together as green balls are still shooting out of these. Once your area begins to fill up, move the boss to another clean area. Rastakhan has also obtained Bwonsambi's inevitable end ability, so run away from him during this. Defensive cooldowns will be needed in the Death Realm as well as the end of the fight. That was a too long didn't read guide for the King Rastakhan encounter. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments.
Awesome.
For the Alliance!
I have many wares. May your feet find good trails.
Stand back, heroes! I'll get you inside the pyramid!
target.
Breach successful! I'll stay out here and keep the skies clear.
We've already scouted these halls and disarmed the Zandalari defenses. Our way in should be clear.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2.
beware.
Destroy something so glorious. It's true what Sylvanas says. You Alliance goons ain't got no souls!
We're entering the heart of Dazar'alor. Expect fierce resistance from the Zandalari. It would be wise to set some traps to cover our flank. Keep going. I'll catch up.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
More play for the pack!
The wind is my will!
course.
Oh, sweet.
The throne room lies ahead.
We have struck a decisive blow against the Zandalari. Let us hope their king chooses to surrender and spare his people further harm.
King Rostakon of Zandalar. On behalf of the Alliance, and in the name of King Anduin Rin, I hereby request your surrender.
You, an exile without a homeland. You dare invade these sacred halls and demand that I turn my kingdom over to you. The Zandalari built an empire that would endure for over 10,000 years, while your barbaric ancestors scuffled in the dirt. We conquered this world. We brought it glory. You are nothing. Merely the latest in a long line of savages seeking to undermine our greatness. No, I will not surrender. Because no matter what happens here today, Zandalar will stand long after your alliance has crumbled to dust. But if you are so eager to meet Bonsamdi, then step forward. The lower of death awaits. Zandalar, forever!
So be it. Heroes, you know what must be done.
It's too far away.
You do not face me alone, invader! You stand before the finest defenders of Zul'Dahar!
I need to get
My loyal subjects! Charge in outsiders! Knights of the arrogant!
Such a fuss about your majesty. Old Bonsamdi ain't gonna let no outsiders take your throne.
Be
Beware. If you can't get the job done, perhaps that could be not.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Regicide. Gotta love it.
We are the sons and daughters of the Alliance.
Nakatook is dead.
The bravery and sacrifice of heroes like Blade Master Telemon will forever be remembered by the Alliance. Light be with you.
Krona kai Kristor. Fight well, traveler.
Stupid RNG. Stop jipping me, doggone it.
at your service.
Ah, there's my sister, the Lord Admiral. Your Alliance friends say you're a master of diplomacy. I think this new title could work out quite well indeed.
Greetings, friend. A king is only as noble as the causes he serves. Never lose hope. A king is only as noble
My
as the
king,
causes he serves.
the attack on Zuldazar was a resounding success.
The Horde is losing on all fronts. The Alliance should achieve victory in a matter of weeks.
Yes, but at what cost? So many fallen, including Mekatork, whose life hangs by a thread. And I fear the death of Rastakhan will ignite a fire in the hearts of the Zandalari.
He was a casualty of war, Anduin. A king must be willing to sacrifice himself for his people, without doubt or hesitation.
I know that, Gen, as well as anyone. But our mission was to drive a wedge between the Zandalari and the Horde. Instead, we may have strengthened their bond.
More than half the Zandalari vessels were destroyed in the initial strike, and the Horde fleet is in disarray. Their remaining ships cannot hope to stand against the Kultiran navy.
The Horde has never been more vulnerable. We should strike hard before Sylvanas hatches another vile scheme.
Press the attack as the Zandalari mourn their fallen king? That would make us no better than the Banshee.
She's the real problem here. I imagine she's already finding ways to turn this to her advantage.
We must continue the fight. But as we push toward victory, we must never lose sight of who we are and what we stand for.
Be vigilant.
Jaina, is there anything you can do for Mekatork?
I'm sorry. The mechanism preserving his body is unlike any magic I have encountered.
Our priests feel just as helpless. History will say we won a great victory in Zuldazar. Yet I find little cause for celebration.
It was a costly battle. In many ways.
But enough of that. How are you faring? You held off the Horde's finest warrior so our fleet could withdraw. You risked everything for the Alliance, Jaina.
Still recovering, but I'll be fine. You have enough on your mind without worrying about me.
It is good to have you back with us, Auntie. I missed you.
So much transpired while I was away. Anduin, I've heard rumors about an old friend of mine, Kalia Menethil. What happened in Arathi?
There is much to explain. Some I still don't fully understand. But I'll tell you what I know.
Thank you. Let's find somewhere quiet to talk. The time for dreaming is over.
Prepare for action. For Coltiris.
Browse at your leisure. Come back anytime.
Ahoy!
It is a good day for a hunt.
What needs done? Look to the shadows.
Hey, my name is Mike, and this is a too long didn't read guide for the High Tinker Mechatork encounter in the Battle of the Zara Lore. He'll hit the tank and apply Electroshock Amplification, a stacking debuff that makes his melee attacks do more damage. Swap around 6 to 8 stacks. Buster Cannon shoots a big orb out in front of him. Avoid it. Don't stand in the brown circles when he shoots off the ground and lands in a different location. And Gigavolt Charge is a 15-second dot indicated by this bomb above your head. Stand behind one of the stones when it expires, because it'll do a raid-wide AoE and leave a dot on everyone in your line of sight. Spark bots will be spawning and chasing chasing random people. They take 99% less damage, so don't attack them. They can be death gripped, stunned, and rooted, which you should take advantage of if your raid composition allows it. Stay out of the blue circle that they continuously cast. This ability will do damage to random people in the raid as well. On heroic, if the bots are alive for too long, they will periodically get a stacking movement speed and haste buff. If it gets to 5 stacks, CC effects won't last as long. To get rid of the spark bots, the boss will cast World Enlarger and shrink random people in the raid for 30 seconds. When he does this, and for a few seconds afterwards, the entire raid should stand still. Regular sized people can step on a shrunk player and kill them, so you want to give the small people time to move away. Shrunk players do 99% less damage but can right click on a spark bot to enter it. Make sure to wait until the blue circle spell is finished casting though. Once in a bot, you have 1 minute on normal and 45 seconds on heroic to enter the correct code to disable it. The code is shown above your bot's head and you cannot see it. On normal, everyone else in the raid can see it, and on heroic, only other people in spark bots can see it. Regardless, have someone start calling out codes by their colors. This could be a bit tricky for colorblind people, so you can try calling out the shapes instead. Ideally, you should only have one person talking at a time, as it can get very confusing when you have multiple people talking over one another and shouting out instructions. My guild had one person, person A, call out instructions for another person, person B. Once person B was done, they exited their bot. Person A called out instructions for person C. Before exiting their bot, person C would call out instructions for person A, and they would exit their bots at the same time. So the person who actually needs to enter their code will be presented with a vehicle action bar that has 5 options. There's a red wrench, purple chicken, green spring, yellow screw, and blue gear. These exact codes will be appearing above your character, and you just press the code you're told. You need to enter 3 correct codes in a row. Once you've done this, all 5 buttons turn into red buttons. Press any one to exit. If you mess up the code, you're ejected from the bot and given a very painful 12-second dot. On heroic, Mechatork will also mark a random person with wormhole generator and then teleport the entire raid to their location. Try to stand around the center of the room. When he gets to 40% health, he flies up into the air and becomes immune to damage. During this phase, you have to deal with Gigavolt Charge and World Enlarger. He shrinks more people during this phase, so this is where you'll have time to clean up any excess spark bots you have. This is also where communication can get very confusing if everyone is talking at once. The last mechanic in this phase is the numerous amounts of sheep that spawn. They walk around for a bit and then explode, indicated by the orange swirly underneath them. When they explode, they shoot out flames that you need to avoid. After about a minute, Mechatork will land. It's the first phase all over again, except he has a buff that increases his attack speed and does raid-wide AoE. On heroic, you'll have to deal with exploding sheep as well. That was a too long didn't read guide for the High Tinker Mechatork encounter. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you like this video, make
I love these videos.
Hey, my name is Mike, and this is a too long didn't read guide for the Stormwall Blockade encounter in the Battle of Dazar'alor. Split your raid up between the 2 boats. On one boat is Sister Catherine, who frequently does an AoE to players near her. Avoid the lightning lines she spawns. Sometimes there's a batch of them, and sometimes they spawn one at a time. Crackling lightning is put on a random person and indicated by this gray swirly underneath you. Run away, as this will deal less damage the further away you are from the group. She puts a shield around herself and starts channeling on the boss. Damage her to break the shield and then quickly interrupt the channel. This channel increases the boss's energy by 2 every 3 seconds. If the boss gets to 100 energy at any point throughout this fight, he does a 15-second cast that kills everyone. Brother Joseph also does an AoE to players around him and puts a shield around himself and channels towards the boss, so break his shield and interrupt him quickly. He's put Sea Storm on random people, indicated by this blue arrow above your head and circle around your character. Move to the edge of the boat because you drop a circle on the ground when it expires. These circles will last for about 30 seconds. Joseph also spawns a tempting siren ad who flies to one side of the boat and channels on a random player. This player has a couple of seconds to run as far away from her as they can before they become seduced and unable to control their character. They'll start to walk towards the ad, and if they get to her, get thrown off the boat. The rest of the players need to kill this ad before that happens. The circles on the ground slow your movement speed, so if necessary, position yourself so you walk through them. Both of these mini bosses need to be killed around the same time because when one dies, their ghost starts giving the boss 5 energy every 2 seconds. This stops happening as soon as they're both dead. When they're both dead, click on the teleporter on the ship to get back to the boss. If you click this while one of the mini bosses is alive, he'll just get sent to the other boat. On heroic, you need to make sure both mini bosses get to 50% health at the same time as well, because upon reaching this amount of health, they will swap which boat they're on. If one ship is without a boss for a couple of seconds, it will start to get bombarded with gray circles until a boss gets on their boat, and the other ship will just have 2 sets of mechanics to deal with. When you get back to the platform to fight Laminaria, don't interrupt his Catastrophic Tides cast immediately. Interrupt it when it has about 1 second left to give yourself some mechanic-free DPS time. This is also a good time to pop all of your offensive cooldowns. Once the boss becomes active, avoid the gray swirlies that spawn on players from Sea Swell and the green pools that they create. This ability deals damage damage to anyone within 4 yards of you as well. My guild just had our melee stacked up and then our range stacked up and healed through the damage. If you can't do this, you'll want to spread out very loosely so you don't cover more of the platform than you need to. There will also be a gray circle that spawns on the platform. If no one soaks it, it'll do a raid-wide AoE and create green pools. Have as many people as you can soak this because the damage is split between all of them. Throughout the fight, a ranged player or healer will get a dot on them called Storm's Wail. When you get this, you need to immediately run over as many green pools as you can because you'll delete them from the platform. Try to always focus on either the left or right side of the platform, ensuring you pay a little closer attention to melee so they have a place to stand. Do this quickly and then run as far away from the boss as you can. When the dot expires, you spawn an ad. These need to be slowed and killed quickly by ranged. Melee should help if needed if it gets close to the boss. If an ad reaches the boss, it'll start channeling 4 energy into him every 2 seconds. At a certain point in this fight, you'll start getting 2 ads spawning in quick succession. Make sure to focus them down. On Heroic, this is a bit different. Storm's Wail is cast only once at the start of the fight. Afterwards, when an ad dies, it'll drop a blue orb on the ground. Every 2 seconds that it's on the ground, the entire raid will get a stacking dot that does more damage per stack. Melee, make sure you're careful not to pick this up by accident. An assigned player needs to run over the orb and then they will get Storm's Wail. You don't need to pick up the orb right away. My guild sometimes waited until we had around 9 stacks so we could maximize how many green pools were being deleted. The boss's melee attacks will apply a stacking dot on the tank that also reduces movement speed by 2% per stack. Your priority is to swap when an ad has spawned and is close to the raid. Run over beside an ad and have a healer dispel your dot. Doing so will make the ad take more damage per stack that you had. The tanks in my guild had this happen at around 4 stacks. Other than that, just make sure someone is always in melee combat with lamination or he'll do a lot of damage to distant players. And defensives are helpful for the Sea Swell AoE. That was a too long didn't read guide for the Stormwall blockade encounter. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Hey, my name is Mike, and this is a too long didn't read guide for the Lady Jaina Proudmoore encounter in the Battle of Dazar'alor. Throughout the entire fight, if you take damage from her frost spells, you get a stacking dot called Chilling Touch that also decreases your movement speed. If you get 20 stacks and then fall below 80% health, you'll turn into an ice block and need to get freed. This will probably only be a concern after the boat phase. If you pop Bloodlust during this fight, Jaina will ice block herself and become immune to damage for 20 seconds. I'll make sure to let you know different points in which you can use it. In the first phase, Marines will spawn and fixate a random player. You can kill these ads or mind control them and then jump off the boat. They place barrels on the ground that do raid-wide AoE after 15 seconds and leave a fire patch. Someone needs to pick this barrel up and throw it off the boat using the extra action button. Do not stand in these orange circles, they turn into fire patches. If a fire patch touches a ballista on the edge of the boat, it will light it on fire. These ballistas need to be used when the orange circles begin spawning. A ship will sail next to the boat that you're currently on, either on the left or right side, and needs to be hit with 6 ballista shots. Keep in mind that the ballistas have a 10-second recharge timer. If a ballista is on fire, you can use the avalanche ability that the boss casts on players. It'll spawn swirlies on the player who needs to keep moving throughout the duration of this 5-second channel. Placing these swirlies on the ballista will put out the flames. Swirlies that hit fire patches on the ground will also delete those patches, so try to remove a lot of them but not all of them. Jaina's Ring of Ice ability is the reason you don't want to clear all of them. If you're caught in this circle, you turn into an ice block that needs to be killed. If you're outside of the circle, you'll obtain an 8-second dot that also roots you, unless you're standing in a fire patch when she finishes her cast. Anyone that's rooted in this fight can be dispelled. Jaina will cast Ice Shard on the tank, which gives you a stacking debuff that makes this do more damage. Swap around 6 to 10 stacks and then whenever the debuff falls off. After swapping, make sure to step on a fire patch to get rid of your Chilling Touch debuff as well. Do not stand in front of Jaina when she does Freezing Blast, and on Heroic she'll cast Time Warp in this phase, increasing her haste by 30%. At 60% health, Jaina will teleport off the boat and you watch a pointless cinematic. At this point, you'll jump off the boat on the southwest side and run straight. It's hard to see, but avoid the tornadoes and ice circles. Interrupt Jaina's cast to end this intermission and begin the next phase. For the rest of the fight, the entire raid should be stacked up unless you get an ability that you need to move out for. Everyone will be getting a stack of Chilling Touch every 6 seconds. There are 4 barrels around the area on normal and 3 on Heroic that are trapped in ice, causing them to take 99% less damage. If you get broadside on you, stand on top of one of these barrels to break it free of ice, removing the damage reduction from it. If all the barrels are de-iced, just make sure to run out and drop the big pink rune away from the raid. Throughout this phase, you'll want to attack a barrel and destroy it, which will create an orange circle around it for 15 seconds. Stand in this circle to remove your Chilling Touch stacks and make yourself immune to Chilling Touch for 8 seconds. Get out of the circle before it explodes. You'll want to destroy these barrels when the raid starts to get to around 15 stacks of Chilling Touch. A random person will get Siegebreaker Blast, indicated by this big pink aura around them. Run as far away from the raid as you can to reduce the raid-wide AoE this deals. Jaina continues to cast Ice Shard on the tanks. There's a good chance you'll get ice blocked at some point because you're gaining stacks faster than the rest of the raid. She also continues continues to do avalanche in this phase, but it's only done on a tank. It leaves patches of ice on the ground that last about 25 seconds, and pieces of ice shoot out of the impact zones, so make sure to avoid them. Do not stand in front of her during the glacial raycast. Also, do not stand in the line of ice this leaves behind. It lasts about 25 seconds. In this phase, there will also periodically be a large circle with a bright white line in the center. This is called Icefall. After a few seconds, ice will fall in the direction of that line, and it will fall from one side of the room to the other. If you get caught in this, you either die or get ice blocked, so make sure to avoid this area. And don't stand in the frost patches spawned by this, which lasts about 20 seconds. When Jaina reaches 40% health, she teleports away. A patch of ice will slowly start spreading outwards from the center of the room towards the walls. On the north side, which is where you came from the boat, there will be a targetable wall of ice that you need to kill before the patch of ice touches you. This is one of the points where you can pop Lust. If the patch of ice touches you, you immediately become ice blocked. Once the wall is destroyed, you will see Nathanos trapped in a block of ice as well as an elemental. Focus on freeing Nathanos, as once he's broken out, the patch of ice will stop expanding and you will be able to return to Jaina. You can kill the elemental, then go to her, or drag the elemental to Jaina and cleave off of it. This elemental puts Heart of Frost on random people. Move away from people if it's on you. If the elemental gets to 100 energy, it'll do Frost Nova, which hits anyone within 12 yards and roots them. On heroic, it'll also cast a raid-wide AoE called Water Bolt Volley, which you can interrupt. After you free Nathanos, Jaina will begin spawning void zones on the ground for you to avoid. This is done until you interrupt her. She'll be at the very back of the room and immune to damage until interrupted. You can pop Lust after killing Nathanos as well if you want to immediately interrupt her and burst the ad down. Once interrupted, the raid will get chilling touch stacks every 10 seconds. There are no barrels or other methods for you to clear your stacks in this phase. Any barrels from the last phase will have been deleted, so do not save them. Jaina has all the abilities she had in the previous phase except for Avalanche. There's a few new abilities in this phase as well. The first is Crystalline Dust, which is a frontal cone done on the tank. Face her away from the raid at all times. Prismatic Image is an ad which spawns occasionally. It doesn't need to be tanked, and while it's alive, it will cast Glacial Ray and Icefall. All DPS needs to switch to this ad immediately. If you can afford to only have your ranged DPS switch, this is also a viable strategy. In this phase, if you haven't already, you will definitely encounter ice blocks. As soon as you see them, you should be switching to them, as they could very quickly get out of control. You can deal with them as they come, or you can force a large portion of your raid to get ice blocked simultaneously so you control the ice blocks a bit better. If you're going to force your raid to get ice blocked, I recommend popping Lust when the first Icefall comes out and then having people get their stacks up. This makes Jaina a non-factor for 20 seconds and makes the ice blocks die faster. In this phase specifically, ice blocks will spawn an ice shard near that player. After about 10 seconds, this shard will shoot forward, hitting anyone in its path, so make sure to avoid them. These shards will still shoot forward even if the ice block is destroyed. They also do triple damage to anyone that is in an ice block. On heroic, Jaina will spawn an Orb of Frost and it will move towards a random player's location. Once it reaches that area, it will do a raid-wide AoE and apply stacks of Chilling Touch. You can reduce the amount of damage and stacks by having everyone stand in the orb for a brief moment. This fight ends once Jaina reaches 5.5% health. Defensive cooldowns can be used in the second phase, but make sure you have all of them up for the last phase due to the amount of damage the entire raid will be taking, primarily from the Chilling Touch stacks. That was a too long didn't read guide for the Lady Jaina Proudmoore encounter. If you have any questions, let me know.
Something to report?
Welcome. There is no hurry. Greetings, Wanderer. Next one is on me.
are you?
See you around.
It's too far away.
Shall we get down to business? I'll see you of service.
Read. Last part.
I'll do my best to tell you what happened. It started when they saw their king fall. The Horde hoped to pin us between their pursuing champions and the forces holding the docks. But they didn't count on the High Tinker. He gave us help from the skies, while gnome forces aided us on the ground. Until Gallywitz showed up.
You plan to stop me with that gaudy piece of junk you call a flight suit? Were you planning to sparkle me to death?
You think you're better than me? You think you're better than me? Let's go, Tinker Boy!
I knew
something first. I need a target.
What all the gold and glitter you want? Your inventions are still cut-rate trash. I've calculated your odds of survival. They are not in your favor. See how you handle this little gizmo.
Beware.
Technology when you see it.
Four, 3, 2, 1.
Beware. Beware.
Your odds of victory are decreasing exponentially by the second.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Let's cut you down to size!
It's too far away.
Allow me to introduce a favorite gadget of mine!
Run away, little girl!
Landing area!
Beware.
I need to get closer. I need a target.
Compromise! Get out of here!
I need to target something.
Dang it, it's done.
The High Tinker fought bravely, but in the end, it wasn't enough. Thank the tides he had one last trick up his sleeve to carry him to safety.
What the? Okay. I want to know two things. First, how could you let that pipsqueak get away? And second, why don't I have an escape pod?
Enough! That's one Alliance hero down. But I want your blades soaked in Proudmoore blood. Move!
The 7th Legion fought bravely to get us out of there.
Hold this ground, 7th Legion. We need to get our ships away.
Leaving so soon, Shaw? Oh, what a pity. I've got an arrow with your name carved into it.
We'll cross paths again, Blind Caller. I'll see you dead or in chains before this war ends, I promise you.
I'm out of range. I need to target something first.
The Horde troops were relentless, bloodthirsty. But our Kotiran forces weren't backing down.
I need this blockade broken and these docks secured.
You should have never challenged the might of Kotiran, Horde scum!
We're not here to taunt them. Focus on the ritual. We must ensure all our people make it out.
Oh, we will! Doesn't mean I can't enjoy myself while doing it.
Put a stop to whatever ritual those Kultirans are attempting. And quell their blathering while you're at it.
I need a target.
don't have a target.
For the Dark Spear.
I need to target something first.
You have made a grave mistake. Beware. The Thunder's voice rings true. Let the skies split you apart.
Beware.
Just those who defy me. Let the skies split you apart. Claim me.
I'll chill you to the bone! Will make you pay! Embrace the rock! Judgment is at hand!
3, 2, 1.
Chill to your bone! Crush you! The storm claims you! Freeze your soul! Shatter your defiance! Chill to your bone! Shatter your defiance! Freeze your soul! Freeze your soul! Shatter your defiance! Freeze your soul! The storm shatter your defiance! Freeze your soul! Thieves will rise again. That's when the troll princess returned, with blood in her eyes.
Princess Telanchi, the Alliance be using their sea priest Mojo against us.
No! Those butchers are getting away!
Helm! Bring us to the docks! By the Loa, what has happened here?
The Alliance invaded our city and killed our king. The wounded need my aid, Captain. Take these Horde champions and pursue the murderers. Bring me the head of Jaina Proudmoore.
It will be so, Princess. Heroes, come aboard!
How you doing, man? Don't be shy.
stay away from the voodoo.
Lord Admiral Proudmoore was as gallant as they come. She offered the Horde every chance to turn back.
All hands on deck! Time to make the daughter of the sea pay for trespassing in our waters.
Consider this your only warning. Turn your vessel back to port and look after your dead, or you will soon join them.
I have heard of you, Jaina Proudmoore. The little girl who betrayed her father and lost her brother to war. Failure is your family legacy.
If you know so much about me, Captain, then you would have been wise to run while you still had the chance.
You will pay for your crimes. All hands, attack!
For Colteras!
The deck is rigged to explode!
Enemy vessels, up upon side.
Beware.
I will freeze you where you stand!
Beware.
Running, Captain?
Impossible! impossible!
I lured you into open waters, because out here, you have no hope of escape. Time we finish this.
3, 2, 1.
It's too far away.
Beware.
You will be washed away! I will freeze you where you stand!
Beware.
Cannons, fire!
Beware.
I hope you don't mind, Cole. All weapons, open fire!
Beware.
It's too far away.
I hope you don't mind, Cole. All weapons, open fire!
3, 2, 1. Beware.
I will freeze you where you stand!
It's too far away. I need to get closer.
What are you waiting for? Finish her!
I'm out of range.
Your horde
I need to get closer. It's too far away.
Cannons fire!
Beware.
And that's how it happened. Lady Proudmoore was the bravest hero I've ever seen.
I'm out of range.
Thank you, soldier. We will see that the Lord Admiral's wounds are healed. Champions, thank you for all you've done this day. We cannot reward you enough for your service. No doubt the Horde will seek reprisal for their losses. We must make ready for what is to come.
For the Alliance above all. Stormwind will endure. Victory in the light. Sometimes we must fight for what we believe in.
Do you hear the river
Ahoy!
song? Step closer and don't mumble.
That's it for now. Thanks for watching, folks. I'll be back in a while.